For the crew of the Walrus, things have gone from bad to worse. Vane attempts to escape Nassau, besieged by the English Navy and pirates alike, and we get to meet young Ben Gunn. Maybe just as crazy as old Ben Gunn. On this week's Black Sails, Season 3, Episode 4, 22. Alright, spoilers ahead, just so you have been warned. Alright, quite a week. A lot of escapes from situations or the need to escape from situations. We'll start off in Nassau, and there we have Charles Vane besieged by both the English Navy and the pirates of Nassau. The bounty on his head has been put out, 10,000 pounds, and that has pretty much rallied most of the island against him. Who's on his side? Jack Rackham and Anne Bonny. Now, Jack and Anne and Vane have a long history going back, sometimes up, sometimes down, but this was really kind of a nice demonstration how the two of them have kind of put aside their differences and really attempted to move forward with the rebuilding of Nassau. That's not possible now, and so Vane has to get out. And Jack, he's willing to sacrifice the fort in order to do it. He's put a lot of work and effort in trying to rebuild the fort, get it back for the defense of Nassau, and he can see right now, with the English Navy out and the rest of the pirates surrounding the fort, that is not going to happen, and he would rather demolish the fort than to see it just fall right into the hands, newly repaired, of whoever it is that is coming next. So, he's more than happy to blow out a wall and create a new exit for Vane to escape. And I really enjoyed the little scene between the two of them of old shipmates, just having that last bond, assisting each other. You know, Vane is offering, you could always come with me. But for Rackham, that's not really the choice. I mean, for a couple of reasons. One, he doesn't really trust Blackbeard and feels that he would just be waiting for Blackbeard to replace him or get rid of him. Vane could protect him, as Vane offers, but he doesn't want that. He doesn't want to be somebody's lapdog, a ward, someone under somebody else's protection. Also, with what he's accomplished in Nassau, he has seen the potential for greatness. As he tells Anne in the cave, this could have been something that would have gone into history, and he was right there at it. Yes, they've got money, they could go anywhere, and they could live comfortably. But seeing that potential in front of them, that possibility of really entering history, of becoming more than just a man with money, that's what's driving Jack. That is really what he wants, and he is willing to go to whatever lengths that it is and use the money and the supports around him, not necessarily in a bad way, but just he's not willing to just walk away from that potential. He has done a lot in Nassau and feels that he could still do more. So Vane's got to get off the beach. Vane's got to get out of there. That's got to be a heck of a long walk from the fort down the beach and to try to get to Edward Teach's ship, to Blackbeard's ship. Obviously, he doesn't make it quite far enough and does need Blackbeard to step in and help create the rest of the path for him to go for. And again, we're dealing with a lot of these nice old connections, things coming through. People are seeing beyond beyond their personal interests and really and the bigger need, what is needed immediate. And I like the fact that Blackbeard really is showing a defense for Vane. He really does care about him. You know, when they have those little touching moments in the ship as they're setting up the trap to send off to the English fleet, and they're having that discussion. Wow, Vane, you're able to put aside your own personal anger for the greater good. That's amazing. And of course, it was his lesson from Eleanor Guthrie, who has put him in this position, that's allowed him to do that. So, using brains, using the ship, the fiery ship against them, it was just a great sequence. How basically what they did is they had the line of ships. They've got the two lines that are off of each other. And what they did with that one ship is they started way back here behind their own line and let it get forward. So it was at maximum speed by the time it broke through the Teach's lines of ships. Now, because it was dark, because it was night, not a whole lot of it looked like a new moon, definitely not a lot of moonlight out there, but between that and the ship not being lit, That's what allowed it to get so close at such a speed and prevent the English fleet from really doing anything about it until it was too late. Great work from Woods to see that there's a potential problem to try and break up the fleet, but this is also demonstrating how maybe him and maybe Eleanor Guthrie as well, little smarter than the English Navy people. They have the expectation, when you are such a great power, you have the expectation that nobody is going to best you, that you're going to see everything coming. And that is really what Vane and Teach Blackbeard were counting on. They were counting on that arrogance to not see the danger until it was right on top of them. And then with the fire, that's so great, that's going to draw everyone's focus and allow their fleet to escape without being seen. And even if it is seen, by the time they get going, they're going to be at such a distance, at such speed. It takes a while for these tall ships in order to get underway and to get sail going, that they would be long gone before there was any chance for the English Navy to get after them. Now back on the island, we've got the crew of the Walrus running into the community of escaped slaves, of marooned sailors and such. But even before that happens, we're getting nice sequences between Flint and Silver. Now that they have put their differences apart, they can actually engage and start to talk. And I think this is really where we're going to get a lot real meaty things happening. It was the two of them, between him and Silver. They seem to be able to compel the crew to do almost anything. And that is really a massive amount of power. But what Flint is discovering is Silver's brain. I mean, Silver's conniving, he is smart, he is manipulative in many ways, he is a great talker and user of people, for sure. But really what Silver's strength is, really his power, is his ability to see situations from new and different angles, to find other ways of perceiving situations, to either find answers or the truth of what's happening. And he demonstrates this off for Flint straight away when he talks about the pardons, when he is able to deduce the entire plan that Woods is going through, which was actually Tom Hamilton's, Arthur Ashe's, and Flint's as James McGrath, of their plan of using the pardons to reestablish Nassau as an English colony, that would be the first step. And it kind of blows Flint away to see that, wow, with just observing that interaction with Hornigold, Silver is able to deduce that entire plan. And again, this is just the beginning of demonstrating Silver's ability to look at things from different angles. When they get captured and they are all trapped inside that cage, they're looking for ways of escape. They're looking for ways to overpower, where Silver is looking for, what is it about our captors? What holes, what differences, what conflicts can be exploited in order to try and save them? Because he sees the way the rest of the pirates are looking for, it's death. It's death in the forest, it's death by capture, it's torture, it's any of these ways are going to lead to their death. For Silver, there is a different way, and that's really his strength, that he is able to exploit. He is able to meet up with a daughter and have that conversation. And I think it was really nice how he was able to demonstrate really the difference between the slaves on the island and the crew of the Walrus. Yes, they all hate the English. They are all mad at the English. The difference is that Silver and Flint are able to motivate the crew to turn that anger to make England fear them, where the island's natives are, or the island's population rather, are still living in fear of the English. And I think that is the conflict that he is attempting to stoke between the daughter and the mother in order to find a way to get out. And when he gets back to the jail, or back into the cage really, and Flint reveals that it was his plan that they are putting to action, that he was the one that helped originally orchestrate this entire thing that is happening in with Nassau. It becomes a nice comparative to how the two are viewing. Throughout this, Flint is kind of trying to succumb to the inevitable, succumb to fate, even with his spectral visitations with Miranda. She took him on the journey, as happened last episode, with the statement that once we get there, I will show you the way, but once we get there, you need to leave me behind and move on. With this, Flint's attempting to accept the inevitable, and this translates with this conversation with her is, you know, what if I want to stay? What if we get there and I'm supposed to leave you and I want to stay? To which Miranda doesn't say anything. She just sort of smirks and gazes off, just almost like dismissive of the statement, like, you don't really know what you're talking about. This is what you have to do. And for Silver, he's kind of the manifestation of that. Silver is refusing to accept what Flint sees as the inevitable. Even when Flint expresses that he understands, you know, as a leadership, Silver's new to leadership. Flint's been there a long time, and he understands this woman will do anything. The leader of the people on the island will do anything to protect her people, and she can't leave them. She can't leave the pirates alive because there's too much of a risk that they could sell the information, they could turn them in just for profit. She can't take that chance. Silver's not so resigned to that situation, and I think it's probably going to pay off as we find out that the father who is missing is none other than Mr. Scott. And he knows the pirates, and at the end when he gets shot and those slaves are going to have to take him back to the island, that is going to start snowballing into a whole new situation which Silver will be prepared to take advantage of. And that's pretty much where we left us. Got a few questions going on into next week. Is Eleanor going to betray Woods? They had that little sequence where she kind of explains how the island sees her. Is she playing the long con? Is she just looking for some opening in order to escape and get out? Or has she fully resigned over to him? And how far away is the island with the escaped slaves? As we saw Mr. Scott, the slaves were getting into a longboat. We didn't see any ship out there. And longboats don't go too fast. They can't go too far. So how far from Nassau is this island of escaped slaves? And that could twist some things up. I mean, it's got to be far, you know, because otherwise people would have discovered it by now if it's just like right around the corner from Nassau. However, how can you get there in longboats if it's quite a distance? So I'm kind of curious about that. And then lastly, what is going to happen with the Spanish gold? Is Woods going to give that back to the Spanish, or is the sight of piles of shiny golden things going to be too much of a temptation for him? All that's going to end up coming up next week, and we will find out about it right here. Come on back then. Press like if you enjoyed what I have to say. Feel free to subscribe, comment in the sections below. Always read them, always appreciate it. You can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. Otherwise, we're going to be sailing off, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye-bye.